Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard, all those in the house. So far, we've got coming in at numero uno, el señor Michael Rutman from Brooklyn, New York. Numero dos, coming in from Houston, Texas, we have Patrick Magner. Starts with a meow. We also have in the house Joanne from Los Angeles, California. She says, hello, everyone. And Bruce Pollard say hi from Kingwood. Cancer free for now. Bruce, positive affirmation. I had no doubt. I tell you, we got to go drink some coffee on that. You know, I don't drink, so we'll have to drink coffee on it. But every now and then I'll drink a beer. So I may just have a beer with you to celebrate. All right, Paul Fleming from Atlanta. No, not from Atlanta. From Powder Springs, Georgia. Anyway, where is everybody else in the chat? You're all over, but you're not in the chat. Let me check my Substack. Make sure we've got our Substack going and flying as well. Para ver. Yep, our Substack is off and flying. 47 people so far. Where are all the rest of our people? Let's get busy. Anyway, let's see what else. Paul Fleming says, Fox Business interviewed the owner of a Pennsylvania auto dealership who says of Trump's tariffs, nobody is going to buy the truck because it just added $20,000 price increase. This is pretty radical. The show then cut back to Maria Bartiromo, who threw a tantrum. What was her tantrum about? I'm curious. Was her tantrum against the car dealership or against Trump for doing something so, to put it as nice as I can, dumb? I guess if the Wall Street Journal can call it dumb, I can call it also dumb, right? I think that would still be considered civil. Bruce, is that civil? Anyway, Eddie Nort. Hi, Wake Up America, hand orange covering eyes. Eddie Nort, where are you from, Eddie Nort? I like to call people cities and state. Where are you from, Eddie Nort? What we got here from Brother Rudnan. Is that something for the screen, Rudnan, or is that just a tweet, or what is that? Para ver, Fox Business interview. Oh, let's see. Let me see how long that is and see, because I may want to play that. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, let's do that. Let me stop. Let's stop. Let's play that. I love my peeps. You guys are great. Thank you, Radnin, for that. Let's go ahead and play that. That seems rather important. So I am going to do that ahorita mismo para ver cómo lo hago. Get that on the screen. And let's get busy with that.
Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
Impact.
Dramatic. I sold order for a customer. $80,000 truck. It's $100,000 now. So he's not going to buy the truck. It's going to sit on my lot at the higher interest rates we're paying right now for floor plan, and nobody's going to buy the truck because it just had a $20,000 price increase.
Right. Kelley Blue Book will put the number up. They say the average vehicle will go up by about $3,000. Does it sound right to you?
No, it will not. We don't have the broad stroke. We don't have the linear, the tight strokes. But to me, it's a 25% tariff. So that affects our parts that come from over these countries, and a whole bunch of our cars.
And you've been basing your business model on free trade, basically. This is what the American Automakers Policy Council says, Maria, in response to this. They say our American automakers invested billions in the U.S. to meet the requirements of the current free trade agreement. They shouldn't have their competitiveness undermined by tariffs that'll raise the cost of building vehicles in the U.S. and stymie investment in the American workforce while competitors from the outside of North America benefit. The German, there's no tariff on the German cars coming in now.
No, they're
Japanese.
They're going to be okay, but think about it. We built our business around that. The OEMs built their business around that, and now it changes on a dime, and we can't build a $4 billion plant overnight in the United States. So I think building in the United States is great. I think enhancing the participation from the other countries on the other things, but this is pretty radical.
I hear you. There you go, Maria, where the rubber meets the road here.
All right, great. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. Jeff Flock at the Dodge Ram plant. Not plant. It's not a plant, Chris. They're selling cars. Thank you, dealership. But you know what? Let me ask you this, okay?
Yes.
How many Dodge Rams do you see driving around Europe? Okay. How many Dodge Rams do you see driving around India? I mean, not many, I bet. Why? Because they don't buy our cars. And that's what President Trump is trying to change. Maybe Dodge should start building them here and selling them here.
Oh, Lord, she forgot. Guess what she forgot? She forgot that she is a capitalist. She forgot she's a capitalist. And what is the definition of capitalism again? The efficient allocation of resources. And if it's less expensive to make those resources in Mexico or Canada or Japan or China, under the tenets of capitalism, that is what you do. Now, if you believe in a different economic systems like we do, we would have things work differently. But Maria Bartiromo wants her cake and eat it too. Donald Trump wants his cake and eat it too. I'm going to force you to make it over here, not by penalizing the companies who decided to make the product overseas, but penalize the American citizenry that, we always pay the. I want to break this down a little bit more. Thank you, Mr. Rudnin, for finding the video. Thank you, my brother Paul Fleming, for telling us about this story that occurred on Fox News. But I want to break it down for you. We are asked, the American citizens are asked to always bear the brunt of the change. Let me give an example. We want car manufacturers to build cars over here. That's what she's claiming. Capitalism says otherwise. Capitalism say the capitalist who runs a company should chase the cheapest place that he can build the stuff, bring it here. That's what it says. Maximize the profits for your shareholder. But here is what we say. To solve this problem, they want to penalize the American citizen. In other words, a tariff is not paid by the corporation, it's not paid ultimately by the country, it is paid by the citizenry. So as opposed to having social laws that say, for the sake of our country, you must build here, and until you build here, while you have a transition period, we will allow those darn cars to come in without that penalty, without that tariff. Otherwise, we always pay the price. Let's give some more examples. When corporations decide that they believe in just-in-time inventory, GITI, just-in-time inventory, whenever there is a flaw in that system, there's a hurricane somewhere, there is a storm somewhere, they got tax breaks and they chose GITI. But when GITI gets into problems, who pays the price for GITI? We do. with higher prices. Why? Why do we have an economic system where the failure of the executives are always borne, the cost of the failure by the executives are always borne by the people? It's always the case that we pay for the failures. We have to have a different economic model. If anybody wants to question me on this, feel free to call 281-823-7747. We have to make it where we are all in the entire game. We're all stakeholders, but the stakeholder that is always asked to bear the brunt of the cost is always the stakeholder that is the consumer, not the corporatocracy, but the consumer, not the supplier, but the consumer. We have to change the modus operandi. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery from Atlanta, Georgia. And let's see, Alana James. Alana, where are you from? I like to call it out. We have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. We also have we have Alison Dreams from Summerwood. Eddie Nort says he's from Houston, I believe. I think I saw that somewhere in the list here, from Houston, Texas. But yeah, the poor pay for the richest problems. Yep, there you go. There you go. So, folks, we have to understand where lies the problem. But anyhow, let's go ahead and give an example that Donald Trump raises the tariffs. The corporations don't pay for it. In fact, they're likely to make an extra profit because they'll use the tariffs as an excuse to increase prices. And as they increase prices, they're going to increase it higher than what their tariff cost is. You know, the tariff is 25%. Listen to what that guy who said, the guy who sold the van. He said, well, that means the cost of that $80,000 pickup is now going to be $100,000. How did he figure that out? 25% of 80,000 is 100,000. But even that guy who's selling that truck is lying to you. Why? Because he buys the truck wholesale. That $80,000 truck probably costed him $60,000. So it should be 25% of $60,000. But you see how he operates. You see how he works. Anyway, let's go ahead. A. Harrison, come on in, my friend. Talk to me.
Yeah, there was a story that I had heard a couple of months ago where I can't remember if it was Eisenhower or one of the presidents back in the 50s, early 60s, raised tariffs on washing machines.
Yes.
Specifically on washing machines.
Yes.
And what ended up happening is, as we all know, is that the price of washing machines went up because the people that are importing the washing machines, they're not going to absorb the cost. They're going to pass it on to the consumer.
Exactly.
But they took it one step further, according to the story that I read. They took the opportunity to say, well, wait a minute. If we're having to raise the price of washing machines, you know, traditionally washing machines and dryers have cost around within $100 of each other.
Right.
So what they did, they raised the price of the dryers when they weren't even part of the tariff deal.
Exactly. And that president, by the way, was Donald Trump. Okay.
Okay. I thought the story read was it had happened before, but I got the timeline wrong. But it just goes to show you that, you know, that these corporate people, just like you said, whenever they get the opportunity to raise the price, even if they don't really have to, they'll do it. And of course, the consumer always pays the price.
Well, you know, it is funny because Tim, one of our supporters here, he sent me an email that I haven't answered yet because I haven't looked it up yet. But he said, if you want to understand what's happening to eggs, check this out. Check this out. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it in a little bit. But even the price of eggs, you know, you're paying $6, $8 or whatever you're paying in the store. None of that reflects the true increase in cost of the eggs. It's just exorbitant compared to what the real increase in cost because of shortages are causing. So yeah, that is what. But you know what? Mr. Harrison, that is what capitalism says is a legal thing to do. It says two things: the efficient allocation of resources, which they don't mean for you, they mean for the capitalists. But the other thing that they also mean is what the god of capitalism said, which is Milton Friedman. He said they have no response. That the capitalists, the executives who work for these guys, have no responsibility to the other stakeholders, to the consumer or anybody else. Their sole responsibility is to the shareholders, nobody else. And that's the only folks they need to look out for. Think about that for a second. I didn't say that. Anybody wants to look it up, go look up Milton Friedman on Wikipedia and read his 1972 statement, I think it's about. And they don't want you to be concerned about environment. They don't want you to be concerned about anything. Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison, for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
You have a wonderful day. All right, I got a video for you. Tom C says cars are being assembled here in Michigan, but lost of parts come from Canada and Mexico. Tariffs on parts for domestic cars hurt both American companies and consumers. Boycott Tesla and save America. I agree. Alana James is from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome, Alana. Thank you for being here. Please remember to share. Let people know about us. Michael Radnes Egberto, after your chat, please read out. Those 25% tariffs are going to spike prices 30% at the store. Between the import taxes themselves and the greedflation from corporations trying to take advantage of perceptions before tariffs go into effect, just in preparation of tariffs, I expect prices to go up 10%. I expect prices to shoot up 30% or more within 1 year of tariffs starting. What every economist understands that Trump and red hats don't get is that tariffs are an import, whoops, it jumped. Tax that the people pay. The streetcars that are made in America, Ford, Lincoln, all of these guys have parts that are made elsewhere as well. Folks, we've got to smarten up. Bridge MCP says, Zelensky says it is time to make things right. After Oval Office blew up, the Ukrainian president said he and his team are ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. It's amazing what you do when I need to stop this. Okay, I see what's wrong. Anyway, so it's amazing what you have to do sometimes. But I want you to listen to this video, folks. Target has already said, yes, prices are going up. Donald Trump claims that, or continues to claim, that the other countries are the ones that are going to pay for the tariffs. Well, the tariffs are now on 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, 20% on China. And you know what? You are going to pay the tariffs. And now it's not conjecture. You know how we know that? The guy whose company sells you groceries, the guys whose company sells you things, came on CNBC and said, within the next 2 days, no more than a week, as these tariffs kick in to last night, guess what? He will be raising prices on your produce. Just listen and hear it for yourself. We've told you so. We've been trying to point out that this was the reality. No matter what your Führer lied and told you, this is the reality. Check it out, and we'll take it on the other side.
We know for certain categories, like fruits and vegetables, where during this winter season, we depend on Mexico for a significant amount of supply. No, those are categories where we'll try to protect pricing, but the consumer will likely see price increases over the next couple of days.
Over the next couple of days, so those go in
really
instantaneously?
Short supply chains. You think about all the fresh produce. Yeah. You know, we depend on Mexico during the winter. We're going to try to make sure we can do everything we can to protect pricing. But if there's a 25% tariff, those prices will go up.
For things like what? Strawberries, avocados, bananas? What are we talking about?
You've got that list right.
Is that so?
Those are some of the key items.
And those prices could change within days in the stores?
Change, certainly over the next week.
So that was Target CEO Brian Cornell just this morning on CNBC. His comments came as Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum just announced moments ago that her country will put forth retaliatory tariffs this weekend. Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans. Christine, good to see you again. So let's talk about the state of tariffs. They went into effect last night. How is the market reacting? The bell is being rung in about 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just give a state of play.
So yesterday was a tough day in the market because it became clear that these Mexico and Canada tariffs were going to go into effect, and there will be retaliation. Already we're hearing retaliation. And the president yesterday also said he was raising the China tariffs another 10%. So you got 20% tariffs on stuff coming in from China, Mexico, and Canada. That started at midnight. So that means, just like the CEO of Target said, the stuff that they're picking up at the port today, they will be handed a bill from customs that says you owe us another 25%. And so immediately that is a cost for business. The Best Buy CEO this morning also saying that its vendors are indicating that they're going to have to pass along those higher costs along the supply chain. Translation, you're going to pay more for computers and smartphones and the stuff that you buy. You can see the market already open lower here because it's real. John, it's on. And trade wars are kind of like a circular firing squad. Once you all start firing at each other with these retaliations and other retaliations, there can be unintended consequences. There can be disrupted supply chains. The last time we were in this kind of a moment was in the first Trump administration. That was a low inflation moment. Mm-hmm. So just the categories where you had tariffs, inflation rose, but everything else stayed pretty steady. We're in a higher than normal inflationary environment. That's why people are concerned about these things.
Christine, the president addresses joint members of Congress tonight, Senate and House. How does he stand and deal with the fact that one of the things he ran on was prices were rising? He blamed it on Biden. And now he's causing a tariff. He's announced tariffs that will cause inflation at a higher level that we don't even know how long it will last. How do you reconcile that if you're Trump?
It's fascinating because he said he won because of the groceries, because people were upset about the groceries. And you just heard the CEO of a major company say the groceries are going to cost more money because of these trade policies. I expect that he's going to frame this as him remaking the American economy to bring back factories, to kill the drug trade, and to make America rich again. And you heard from Howard Lutnick, his Commerce Secretary, this morning, just recently. He said people are looking too much at the near term here, and they need to look further out to how they're going to remake the economy so it's so rich that this near-term disruption doesn't matter. Certainly, investors in the stock market today aren't agreeing with that perspective and are more concerned about what this is going to mean for supply chains, for profits, for consumers, and for the economy overall, potentially weakening U.S. economy.
All right, folks. It is clear that the president, what I don't understand is we still have people that try to say this president is smart in some areas, maybe not in any other. No, this is not a competent or smart president. He has taken an economy that was solid based on capitalist norms, was solid, not based on socioeconomic norms for people making, marginal money, but from a total standpoint, an economy in the capitalist structure that was doing fine. He has taken that and has put in all the necessary markers to run it into the ground. Tariffs are going to run it into the ground. And his issues with Ukraine, etc., is going to run it into the ground. His tax cut policies is going to run it into the ground. His healthcare policies going to run it into the ground. So we have somebody who is taking something that was given to him on a silver platter, and with his ineptness, with his ineptitude, with his lack of intellect, he's going to throw it away. And those people who least can afford to, his MAGA base specifically, are going to suffer for it. Absolutely the case. Absolutely the case. Brother Magner, talk to me.
Hey, good afternoon. Do we all remember the railroad strike and the port strike?
Yes, we do.
It was over a year ago. Conservative news and conservative neighbors were all upset in arms because their bananas were going to go up in price instead of understanding that these people are going on strike so that they could feed their families. But then when their president turns around and increases the prices on the very same products that we were told to defend, when they go up 25%, we're supposed to be happy about this. This is another moment where I'm confused, and I kind of need your guidance.
Well, actually, this is what's known. I forgot the kind of thinking that this is. These are folks that aren't thinking straight. I think you've probably seen the joke that I think it's Comedy Central does, where they go interview somebody and they says, "Suppose I told you that Biden said to inject yourself with bleach to solve a problem with viruses," and the person said, "That guy is senile. We always knew Biden didn't know what he was talking about." And then the person says, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I have the right person. It is Trump who said that." And then immediately that same person turns around and says, "Well, he may have said that because he has some data to show that if you do." That is the kind of thinking we have from many in the MAGA base. It's not logical. It's not critical thinking. It is cultish behavior. And that is what makes it so difficult to reach many of these folks. You have to be able to break the cult. And usually that happens with some sort of a severe pain that they feel themselves. They are unable to empathize, many of them are. And it's a severe pain. When they feel that severe pain, it kind of knocks them out of the stupor. And once you get knocked out of the stupor, then, you can actually mitigate that, my brother. Anything else, Patrick?
Yeah, the first caller was right on, but he could have shared further. There's upstream and downstream jobs that end up getting lost when we do these tariffs. And another thing, the source that I read that from, and it was very similar to what he was saying, was that not only did the prices go up on these, but the quality of the build went down.
Right.
The chipsets were lower, the gauge wires were lower. And there's another thing that the Wall Street Journal touched on, and they refer to as tariff engineering. Mm-hmm. And the prices still go up. Say company A builds a box truck, and all the box trucks went up in price, and so they still add that tariff price to it, but they cheat the tariff. And Ford did this for a while, I think, with their Transits. It was the model of the truck.
Right.
What they did was they put extra seats in it, built it and assembled it in a foreign country, called it a passenger vehicle, moved it over here, pulled the seats out, and they ended up in a landfill, and then they sold it as a truck because that's what it was. And so that's going to be another way that we see them, quote unquote, cheat, and we'll still be paying the price, and then the money won't be collected as a tariff; it'll go straight to the stockholders. And so there's a whole lot of other things that we're not going to realize until it's too late. And then another thing that should really scare us about tariffs is once a tariff is enacted, they rarely go away. I'm thinking that Biden didn't get rid of some of these tariffs not because he didn't want to, but because it would have been too difficult.
But here's the other thing that
when they're here, they're here.
Yeah, let me tell you one thing here that's very important, Patrick. You see, a tariff, remember, it's an easy way to create a regressive tax, right? Tariffs are regressive taxes because they usually cover things like clothes and in this case, cars, etc. So everybody pays them at the same rate, irrespective of their income level. So what that means is the following, and you're right. One of the reasons Biden probably didn't get rid of it, because it would have changed the budgetary numbers, right? Because remember, the tariffs is money being paid to the United States government to fill those coffers. So when they're doing what's called reconciliation in Congress, that money adds up to a whole lot of money that they also, when they're doing their reconciliation, because remember, reconciliation where you can pass a bill by 50% plus one, has to be within, it has to be paid for, right? It has to be, you have to find all this money, where it's coming from, etc. And what happens then is, if you go ahead and rescind a tariff, you have to take all that money off the table. The same thing with Trump here. He's putting on, when he talked about putting tariffs on Canada, okay, let's say that's what he really wanted. But my God, a 25% tariff is massive. It's massive. And that's what he's putting on. He's putting that onto Canada. The man wants to raise money because that is a regressive tax on all of you that are hearing my voice right now. That is money that goes right into the treasury, and it offsets anything that he wants to spend. Understand it, people. This is not rocket science, but this is what's happening. Anything else, Patrick, before I go to the other video?
I'll let you go real fast, but if you remember, they wanted a flat sales tax. Conservatives wanted a flat sales tax instead of an income tax. It was for the same reason. They're trying to push all the taxation onto the bottom half.
And folks, I wish people, and that's why what we do here is so important, Patrick, and the communication from all of you. I was happy that Rodnin was able to find that video, because I think that gives one of the reasons I like to show the actual news clip from these major stations, even though they can't put the narrative that we can put on it, is because you can actually see it happen. When that car dealership comes out there and says, my $80,000 truck is now going to cost $100,000. There are two pieces to that story that we can tell that the mainstream media didn't tell. Number one is intrinsic within that dealership. He already thought about what you're saying, Patrick. I am going to charge more than what the tariff costs me, because he's buying that car wholesale. He's selling it for $80,000, but he's not buying it for $80,000. But he's going to rate. Everybody knows the tariff is 25%, and he's going to put the 25% on the $80,000, not the $60,000 or whatever it is that he did. So we could expand on that story. Additionally, when Bartiromo comes out and she talks about, we want to go ahead and there's no cars in China, no Dodges in China, or no Dodges in India, we can also explain to our audience, well, you know what? That's what capitalism does for you. Capitalism means what she's trying to do now is go beyond the tenets of the things they consider their God. Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, tell your listeners that because of tariffs, there are no competition for domestic built trucks, and the average number of dollars that moves to the bottom line when you buy a truck in the United States now is $45,000. So when you buy an $80,000 truck, almost 50% of that is profit to the American manufacturer, for no other reason except there is no competition.
There you go. Hey, but Patrick, please remember that when you're talking on the phone, everybody hears you. So I don't have to tell the audience. The audience just heard you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, thank you for your call, my brother. You too now. All right, folks. This is the other video with the veterans now. Let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll take it on the other side. When you vote for our president based on the wrong thing, in other words, not based on issues, but based on your prejudices, you get a President Trump. You get somebody that really cares nothing about you, but simply used your prejudice, used your ignorance, or used many other features that you have, grievances that you have, to win an election. But the difference here is not telling you exactly what they would do that would make your life better, but telling you all the things that they are going to do to solve all the problems you dislike. Maybe that's DEI. Maybe that's gay people. Maybe that's people of a different ethnicity. So he tackles all these people because, he knows that will keep you focused on supporting him, because both of you can display the hate for the same folks, but he hasn't told you anything he's going to do for you. But he also tells the rest of America all the things that he supports. You know, I'm going to cut the government. I'm going to cut these programs, all of that. But the way he has you believing is that won't affect you. It will affect the other. But a thinking person understands that if you are from a state or of a persuasion that is dependent on government, how could it not possibly affect you? Well, now we have this Marine veteran who worked for the IRS. The last thing he thought when he voted for Donald Trump is Donald Trump is coming for him, even though the right-wing mantra was talking about Biden is hiring 80,000 IRS workers, and we don't want these people to be working for government. And you, Mr. Veteran, who works for the IRS, voted for Donald Trump. Did you not hear when he says they don't want all these IRS people running around? Same with the people who voted to reduce government. Now they're not getting a lot of the subsidies they want. So are the people who voted for this president who said he was going to cut programs and give big tax cuts. Where do you think the tax cuts come from? You. No Medicaid or lowering in Medicaid and firing workers. And now it has come to pass. He is doing exactly what he told you he was going to do, but he's also doing your bidding. Anti-DEI, hey, you got it. Anti-trans, hey, you got it. But what about anti-programs that all of you depend on? You see, the anti-trans didn't make any money for his rich folks, tax cuts for his rich folks. The anti-DEI didn't do anything for the tax cuts for his rich folks because there ain't no money in those particular social programs you hate. There ain't no money in those things that you really, really hate. The people you hate, getting at those people you hate, that doesn't come with money. That's just a thing. But the money that he needs, he had to get from somewhere. So he increases on tariffs. And who pays for that again? You do. And he increases on thing after thing after thing. And who pays? You do. And as you're starting to see these things, let's hope that you'll go out, not only in the streets, but you'll go out to the town halls and let these guys know that if they follow your Führer, that they will ultimately pay the price. I want you to listen to this Marine veteran along with his congressman and this MSNBC host. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Today, Democrats have a clear strategy against Donald Trump. They don't need to craft stories about his administration. They plan to amplify the real world stories of those who are acutely feeling the effects. To that end, my next guest is one of the Democratic members of Congress who will be attending the president's speech, alongside his guest who lost his job because of Trump and Elon Musk's Doge cuts. Democratic Congressman Joe Courtney and Gabriel Delattre, a Marine veteran who voted for Trump in November, both join me. So, Gabriel, first and foremost, thank you for your service. The theme of the president's speech tonight is the renewal of the American dream, although I know you were recently fired from the IRS just 5 days before the end of your probationary period. So what are you hoping to hear from President Trump tonight as you sit in the audience along with other federal workers who also lost their jobs recently?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. I'm hoping to hear the president say that he has a plan to reinstate the veterans that were fired and also the spouses of armed forces members that are overseas that use federal employment. That's really it. I'm here on behalf of veterans.
I don't want to say that Elena Haba, counselor to the president, speaks for him, but she is a spokesperson for the White House. And she was asked just today about people like yourself, particularly veterans, veterans who have been fired from the federal workforce. And I want to play for you what she said just a short time ago.
Is the president starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives?
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
I'd like you to react specifically because she's talking about veterans like yourself when she says they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. Does that apply to you or any of the other veterans who you work with?
No, it doesn't. I was in the office all the time. I oversaw all the IRS facilities in Connecticut, so it was can't really do that job from home. I was all over the New England region, going into these offices, making sure they were running good so that we could have our taxpayer assistance centers who American people rely on to get taxes done. So it's sad to hear, but I'm still here to get veterans their job back, and that's going to be my goal while I'm down here.
Congressman, is there anything you can do to help in that regard?
So we've introduced legislation, the Veterans Job Protection Act, which would, in fact, reverse those firings, which, again, I think it's important to remember. The federal government actually has been intentionally and targeted in a targeted fashion reaching out to veterans to take federal jobs because they have the right skill set in terms of teamwork, training, just like Gabe, who did logistics in the Marine Corps and now, was in a position to make sure these buildings were working, the way they're supposed to. And again, was going to work every single day. I mean, it's really tough to listen to someone accuse people just broad brush without regarding, really understanding the truth, which is that Gabe and others were there diligently because that's the way they were trained in the military, that was to show up and follow orders.
There's all kinds of research that shows how military members have been important and, as you say, very disciplined members of the business community after they leave service. But one challenge, Congressman, tonight clearly is that you and other Democrats don't have the podium. Donald Trump has the podium. He'll be able to talk about the guests he's invited tonight. He'll be able to make emotional connections, for example, with the families of one person who was killed during the assassination attempt on his life. So how do you and other Democrats amplify stories like Gabriel's, not just tonight, but in the weeks to come? Do you think that in addition to legislation, which will be tough in a Republican Congress, there is a pressure campaign that can work?
Absolutely. So, again, Gabe has been meeting with professional committee staff while he's been here in town, who, again, this is not just a one and done type of effort. I mean, people understand that this is going to take a while. I mean, he's represented by a federal employees union, who, again, is actually representing people like him that the IRS just, again, arbitrarily and indiscriminately fired. So there's a, appeal process that they're definitely involved in. But, honestly, I think the external pressure of reaching out to veteran service organizations who advocated for these veterans hiring programs like the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, all of them, is going to really put some pressure externally, both in terms of the administration and Congress, to really just fix what I think most Americans would find just totally, abhorrent, that people who wore the uniform of this country relied on the recruitment efforts that the federal government reached out to them with, are actually going to be able to continue to perform important work, which, by the way, is now not happening in instance in terms of getting ready for the tax season, which is fast approaching.
And which is so important to virtually all Americans. So, Gabe, let me ask you, if I can, personally, emotionally, financially, what this has done to you and your family.
Put a lot of pressure on us, to be honest. We have a 6-month-old baby, my wife and I, beautiful baby. We love her. Parenthood's awesome, but it's put an extra weight on our shoulders. In the meantime, looking for employment while I fight this, but I'm hoping that I can get my job back, and I'm hoping that I can get all the veterans that were fired their jobs back. There was around 6,000 veterans that were let go. If I can come here and I can get 5,999 veterans their job back, but I don't, I'm okay with that too.
So as you can see, this Trump voting Marine veteran, he's working hard in Congress now to get the jobs back for the 500 5,999 IRS workers that were laid off. I wish him well. I wish him luck. I hope he got educated on what his fewer is going to do, will do, did. And I hope never again he makes the mistake of supporting the evil represented by not just Trump. Trump is pretty much over, but the entire train, the entire bench of Trumpians that are there intent on destroying not only our government, but our country. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Anyway, Bridge MCP says, Egberto Willies, if Canada cuts off electric or even just use the tariffs, I am in upstate New York. We are being warned of huge price increases. Oh, wow. That's right. Because they're selling electricity into the United States from Niagara Falls, etc. You are so right, my dear, beautiful lady. Paul Fleming says a public citizens report obtained exclusively by NPR shows the new administration has halted or tried to dismiss cases or investigations at least 89 companies in the last month, including why do you think they want to get rid of the CFPB? Because again, they don't want, they're giving passes to all those banks, etc., that rips people off with bills here and there. Tom C says Trump's speech on the State of the Union, renewal of the American dream equals beginning of an American nightmare. I agree. Michael Rudnin has a message for El Senor Eric, and it goes as follows. Eric thinks Trump is going to stop fentanyl trafficking. He's bought the talking points hook, line, and sinker. This time next year, there are still going to be 100,000 plus fentanyl overdose deaths, with more than half coming from hot doses where addicts don't know they're taking heroin that's laced with fentanyl. You don't solve an opioid epidemic with hardline policies. You can only solve it by looking at the underlying problems, including the economic hardships that caused the opioid epidemic in the first place. Thank you for the most sensible statement that's out there on this crisis. Let me tell you, guess who also said it? Shine Boyne, the president of Mexico, said it. She said, look, you shouldn't be coming to Mexico about your opioid problem. You should go and solve the problem in your country. But we want to put those problems off on somebody else. The United States military killed 10,000 Panamanians under the pretext that Donald Trump was, that Manuel Antonio Noriega, the Panamanian dictator, our Panamanian dictator, was sending drugs into the United States. Look, Manuel Antonio Noriega was just a capitalist. There was a need for drugs. Americans love their drugs, and he just where there's a need, where there's a demand, he provided the supply. That's all. 10,000 Panamanians had to die because, well, that's not the real reason. The real reason is they wanted him to invade Nicaragua, and he said, no, we're not going to do that. So they go ahead and say, but you're facilitating drugs into the United States. I would have told him, I'm a capitalist. Anyhow, let's see. Hi, all. What is wrong with reducing drugs like fentanyl, less dead people? No, you have to solve the problem in-house. Let me look at what they're doing, right? They're causing pain on all of us because a bunch of people in Kentucky and West Virginia and other places have a drug problem. So all of us are going to pay higher prices, assuming you believe Donald Trump. We are going to pay for the sins of those who decide to take drugs. Let them stop taking drugs. Work like Mr. Rudin had to say, and he's actually right about that. All right, Bridge MPCP puts this out. Donald Trump. All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. No masks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Wow. If that isn't a dictator, colleges, that's what we're made for. Protest. All federal funding will stop for. You see what's going on here, folks? Do you understand what's going on here? That is a precursor to, that's a precursor to martial law. How the hell do you tell a university you should have no protests? What the hell is an illegal protest? What the hell is an illegal protest? We have freedom of speech. Do you see where we're going, folks? Do you understand where we're going? Thank you for finding that. Who gave me that? Bridge MCP. Thank you for finding that. That is quite interesting. Anyway, folks, we have about 4 minutes left in the program. Anybody wants to call to make any final statements? 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. If anybody else wants to add something to the discourse, the lines are wide open. And you know what? We have unlimited, at KPFT, we have the manual phones, right? So it all goes into a computer system, but we have 6 lines that can be active at the same time. My computer system here, I can handle any number of lines. Now, how to control them is a different story. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I can control just about any number of lines here at the same time. Anyway, folks, give me a call, 281-823-7747, before I go into my phase of asking you to support the program. Una vez más lo voy a repetir una vez más. 281-823-7747. And I'm hearing now from my brother, Patrick Magner. Talk to me, Patrick.
Eric likes to bring up the fentanyl a lot, and he gets the same answer from me every time. It's the correct answer. Drug abuse is a social issue. It's not a crime. One of many reasons why we have a problem here is because we've addressed the problem wrong. The way we've addressed the problem by criminalizing it has created a market which takes something that costs pennies and makes it more valuable than gold, which is what fentanyl is.
You nailed it.
Now, socialist countries don't have the problems that we do. They also don't work the number of hours that we do.
Right. Patrick,
Yes,
Patrick, listen, man. Listen, Patrick. I don't know what's wrong with you, Patrick. Why do you critically think? Please tell me. Why do you critically think, Patrick? What's wrong with you?
It's nice to be able to analyze the world around you, isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? But when you have these troglodytic ways of thinking, and you know what's the biggest problem with some of the stuff you'd hear our brother Eric talk about, is that he's so firm in being wrong. He's so firm in being non-critical in the thought process. I think that is a bigger problem than just mere ignorance. Ignorance is one thing, but sureness in your ignorance is ridiculous, and that is a shame. Anyway, anything else, Patrick? I got to go do my ass. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Eric, to me, more than anything, it seems like he's just trying to upset people because he finds that entertaining. He can't really believe in a lot of the things he says.
Actually, I think you're right. He doesn't believe in a lot of the things he says. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the hell he believes in a lot of times. I honestly
he believes in
don't know.
people.
Well, also, there's a mindset out there that, again, if you're not critically thinking, you're just spitting out the first thing that comes in your head, right?
Yes, sir.
And haven't you? I've said things. I've kind of pointed things out as like, oh my God, why did I say that? But at least I cop to it, right? If I say something stupid, I'm gonna cop to it and say, it's stupid what I just said. Forget I said that. Anyway, hey Patrick, thank you so kindly for calling in, my brother.
You're welcome. Let me summarize it really fast. We have the drug problems that we do because of what the capitalist society asks from us. It leaves us nothing left, so we have to take poor man vacations. It's also the reason why we spend so much money on entertainment. There's just nothing else in the society for us. It's fake. That's it.
Brother, you nailed it. Thank you very much, Patrick. All right, folks, let me tell you now, it is time for us to ask you to please support the program. Please support the program the best that you can. We are here 5 days a week, and we do 2-hour programs, 2 1-hour programs twice a day. One at 6 o'clock on KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston. Of course, it's carried all over the internet when we stream it, as well as this program at 3 o'clock every weekday as well. We also write blogs, articles, books. We put out TikTok videos, Instagram videos, reels, YouTube shorts, and YouTube longs. We do all of that to seed the internet with progressive media, progressive information, truthful information. We are competing against well-founded right-wing Powell Manifesto generated propaganda. And it's not easy, and it's a lot of work, and it's something we have to do it on the cheap because we don't have a lot of funding. Our funding don't come from deep pockets. Our funding comes solely from you. So what I'm asking you right now is to please support this program the best you can. And we're in fund drive at KPFT, and I am doing hard work collecting a whole lot for KPFT, and we've been very, very successful, Politics Done Right at KPFT and other programs at KPFT in collecting. We also need to make sure that all facets of Politics Done Right are actually, how should I say, funded. So I want to ask you to please consider becoming a subscriber to our newsletter. And how can you do that? You can become a subscriber to our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and, become a paid subscriber. Look, anybody can become a paid subscriber. Can become a subscriber. Becoming a paid subscriber helps us offset all the costs. And sometime I want to show you this entire setup that allows us to do all of this, from the building of the videos, splitting, all that good stuff. So I ask you kindly to consider becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's cheaper than a coffee. I guarantee you, it is cheaper than a coffee. So please consider doing that. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Alternatively, you could also become a Patreon. I know a lot of you understand that a lot of us who create content, we are funded through Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon is how you fund Politics Done Right through Patreon. And of course, you can get any one of our books and do all these other ways. But I'm asking you, we do a lot of work. We invest a lot of time in this, not for us, but to get the message out. And I ask you kindly to support that. You're also supporting keeping the dialogue elevated. As you can see, we try our best to be civil. We try our best to include absolutely everybody. So one more time, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.